I always trusted her completely. She told me her ex was like a brother to her, someone she'd known since they were kids, and honestly, I never thought much about it. I saw their old photos together, and how their families were close. But one evening, after work, I picked up her gym bag from the back seat because she asked me to bring it inside. As I opened it to grab her water bottle, something fell out that made my chest tighten instantly. It was a pair of men's boxers, and they weren't mine. For a minute, I stood there frozen, staring at them, feeling my heart pounding so hard I could hear it echo in my ears. I wanted to believe there was some innocent explanation, but deep down, I knew the truth. I thought about her words. "He's like a brother to me." And suddenly, they sounded so disgustingly fake. My hand shook as I picked them up, and that's when an idea formed in my head. I placed them neatly in a small box, wrote a simple note that said, "Keep what's yours," and mailed it directly to her ex's address. Later that evening, she called me crying, her voice breaking as she tried to explain herself, but I didn't answer. I was already out, having dinner with her best friend. She kept calling over and over, her tears turning into desperate voicemails, but I just watched the phone light up while her best friend sat across from me, sipping her wine with a small smile. I wasn't sure what I'd do next, but one thing was clear: if she wanted to play games, I was about to show her how cold revenge could feel. As I sat there watching her best friend swirl her wine, I kept thinking about how all of this even started. We'd been together for almost 2 years. Everyone thought we were perfect, the couple that would get married soon. She was sweet, funny, and knew how to make everyone love her. But looking back, there were always small signs I ignored. Like how she always texted him late at night about family stuff, or how she smiled a bit differently whenever his name came up in conversations. She called him her brother, but there was always something off in the way she defended him, like she was hiding a piece of the truth. Her best friend, Mia, had always been around too. We never really talked deeply before, but that evening, as she watched me ignore my girlfriend's desperate calls, she leaned in and said quietly, "You know, I warned her about playing these games." I looked at her, confused. Mia just smiled sadly and took another sip of her drink. "Warned her about what?" I asked, my voice low, trying not to let the anger show too much. Mia sighed and shook her head. "She's been lying to you about a lot of things. But I guess you're finding out now, aren't you?" She looked at me with eyes that held secrets I couldn't even begin to understand. My phone buzzed again with another voicemail from my girlfriend, but I didn't open it. All I could think about was what Mia just said. What else was she hiding from me? As Mia reached out to touch my hand lightly, I felt a chill run through my body. For the first time, I realized I didn't really know the woman I loved, and I had no idea what I was about to uncover next. I sat there quietly, staring at Mia's hand resting lightly on mine. My chest felt heavy with confusion and anger. She pulled her hand back slowly and looked around the restaurant before leaning closer. "You know, she wasn't always like this," Mia said softly. "But ever since he came back into her life, she changed. I think she got addicted to the thrill of lying." I didn't say anything, just kept my eyes on the table, feeling my throat tighten. Mia continued, "I told her she'd lose you if she kept sneaking around with him. But she always thought you'd forgive her no matter what." Her words hit me like cold water. So it was true. Everything I was afraid of was real. And she had been warned, yet she chose to keep doing it. Mia sighed and took another sip of her wine. "She always wanted the attention. She told me once that she loved how he made her feel young again, but she loved how stable you made her feel. I guess she wanted both worlds." I felt my stomach turn at the thought. My phone buzzed again on the table. Another message from her, probably another lie wrapped in tears. I finally looked up at Mia, trying to read her expression. There was sadness in her eyes, but something else too, something colder, like she wasn't surprised at all. "Why are you telling me all this now?" I asked quietly. Mia's lips curved into a small smile. "Because I think you deserve to know the truth. And maybe because I know how it feels to be lied to by people you trust the most." Her words echoed in my mind. Sitting there with her, listening to the secrets she slowly spilled, I realized this was only the beginning. There were darker truths waiting for me, and I wasn't sure I was ready to hear them all. I stared at Mia, trying to process everything she was telling me. My heart was racing so fast I thought it might burst out of my chest. She sat back in her chair and crossed her arms, watching me closely. "You want to know the worst part?" she asked, her voice almost a whisper. I didn't answer. I just nodded, feeling my throat dry up. "She didn't just lie about him," Mia said, her eyes locked on mine. "There's someone else too. Someone from her office. I caught them once, during lunch break. She begged me not to tell you." My hands curled into fists under the table. The restaurant around us felt like it disappeared. It was just me, Mia, and the sound of blood pounding in my ears. My phone buzzed again. Another voicemail from her. I imagined her sitting in our apartment, crying, probably terrified that her secrets were all coming out. Mia leaned forward and whispered, "She thinks you'll come back if she cries hard enough. She thinks you're weak." Those words cut deeper than anything. Weak. That's what she thought of me. Suddenly, all the pain inside me turned cold. I realized that everything I felt for her was starting to rot into something darker. Anger. Hatred. Revenge. Mia reached out and placed her hand on mine again, her fingers warm and steady. "Do you want to know everything?" she asked softly, her eyes shining with something I couldn't read. My chest tightened as I nodded slowly, knowing that whatever she was about to say next would change everything forever. I felt Mia's fingers tighten slightly around mine as she leaned even closer. Her perfume mixed with the sharp scent of wine between us. She took a deep breath and whispered, "She's not just cheating on you with him or with that guy from her office. There's more. A few weeks ago, she asked me for a huge favor. She wanted me to lie to you about where she was one weekend." My eyebrows furrowed. "Why?" I asked, my voice low and shaking. Mia looked away for a moment before meeting my eyes again. "Because she went away with him. But that's not the worst part," she said, her voice dropping even lower. "That weekend, they got engaged." I felt my stomach twist so hard it hurt. My ears were ringing as I stared at her, not believing what I'd just heard. Engaged? How could she be engaged to someone else while living with me, while telling me she loved me every night before bed? Mia reached into her purse and pulled out her phone. She scrolled quickly before turning the screen toward me. There it was, a photo of my girlfriend smiling next to him, holding up her left hand with a small diamond ring on her finger. They were standing on a beach, looking like the perfect couple. I felt like I couldn't breathe. "She didn't want you to find out until she was ready to leave," Mia said softly. My hands were shaking as I pushed her phone away. Everything inside me felt like it was collapsing. And for the first time that night, I felt something darker than anger. I felt a dangerous calmness wash over me as I realized exactly what I needed to do next. I sat there staring at the empty glass in front of me, feeling like the world around me had turned completely silent. Mia watched me carefully, her eyes searching my face for a reaction. I felt strangely calm, like the anger and pain inside me had burned away, leaving only cold clarity. I picked up my phone and listened to her voicemails, one by one. Her voice was shaking, begging me to come home, saying she needed to explain, that it wasn't what I thought. But every word sounded like poison dripping into my ears. I looked at Mia and asked quietly, "Why are you helping me?" For a moment, she didn't say anything. Then she sighed and looked down at her hands. "Because I've been where you are. I was her friend, but she stole someone I loved too. I guess. I just wanted you to see who she really is." Her voice broke slightly at the end, and I realized Mia wasn't as cold as she tried to appear. She was hurt too. That night I didn't go home. Instead, I stayed with Mia. We didn't talk much. I lay awake thinking about everything, planning my next steps carefully. The next morning, I packed my things from the apartment, while she was at work. I left her a note on the kitchen counter. It was simple. Just 4 words. You chose your path. But I wasn't done yet. 2 weeks later, I sent her and her new fiancé a wedding gift. Inside the box were all the photos of us together, every love letter she ever wrote to me, and the necklace she always wore, the one I gave her on our first anniversary. On top of everything, I placed a small card that said, "Congratulations to the happy couple. I hope lies taste sweet at the wedding." That same day, I posted a photo on Instagram. It was me and Mia at the beach, smiling at each other with the ocean behind us. The caption simply said, "Some truths set you free." Hours later, she called me over and over, screaming through voice messages, asking how I could do this to her, how I could betray her like that. But I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Because here's the final twist. Mia looked at me that evening, a quiet smile playing on her lips, and whispered, "You know, she was never engaged. That photo was from years ago. I just wanted you to finally let go." My chest tightened, and I stared at her in shock. But then, as I watched the sun set behind her, I realized I didn't even care anymore. Some lies set you free too. I sat there on the sand, watching Mia as the wind blew her hair gently across her face. Part of me felt numb after what she just confessed, but strangely, another part of me felt lighter than I had in years. She looked at me, her eyes searching for anger, for disappointment, for something dark. But I just smiled faintly and shook my head. "Thank you," I said quietly. She tilted her head confused. "For what?" she asked. "For freeing me," I replied. I realized in that moment that it didn't matter whether the photo was old or new, or whether she was truly engaged. What mattered was that I finally saw the truth about the person I had been fighting so hard to keep. I thought back to all those nights I lay awake worrying about her, all those times I forgave her small lies, thinking love meant patience and understanding. But real love doesn't make you doubt yourself every day. It doesn't force you to live with constant fear of betrayal. Over the next few weeks, I started fresh. I moved into a small apartment closer to my office. I focused on myself for once, my health, my career, and the small things that made me feel alive again. Mia and I remained close friends, though we both knew we carried different kinds of scars inside us. Sometimes we'd sit together at the same beach, watching the waves, talking about nothing and everything. There was a comfort in knowing we both survived someone else's lies. My ex tried to contact me many times after that. She showed up at my new place once, crying, begging me to come back. But I just stood there calmly and told her, "You can't fix what you've broken beyond repair." I closed the door on her for the last time, feeling no anger, just peace. One evening, as the sun set behind the city skyline, I realized how much I'd grown. Betrayal had burned away all the illusions I had about love, but it left me with something pure, self-respect. If there's anything I learned from it all, it's this: never let someone treat you like you're easy to replace. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't anger or betrayal. It's moving on completely, and living in a way that shows you didn't just survive, you learned, you healed, and you became stronger. And that was something no lie could ever take away from me.